Hey, what is going on, guys? It's Kid up here, and my last video, I talked about how to become a UI and UX designer, especially if you're a graphic designer right now, you want to, start designing apps, right? What are the steps to learn about app design? So I mentioned about UX in that video too, like how do you learn UX? And I said that you can go to Google Material Design and learn about those components and put those components in your design file. But I did say that UX design is actually a lot bigger than just designing screens, right? And in this video, I want to go a little bit deeper into the whole kind of UX design things, right? So what are the things that you actually have to do to become a UX designer, or like what are the different types of UX designer, right? You may not be doing all of these types. You may be only focusing on one, which is my case, but like what are the three types of UX designer out there? But before I talk about the UX design kind of spectrum, right, I want to talk about the kind of product cycle or product design flow, right? So how does a product come to life? I want to talk about that because it's very important to understand the cycle. And as a UX designer, right, your job is basically just surrounding the entire cycle from the beginning to the end. So that is the whole UX kind of like flow about as well. So for the product cycle, I think there are 6 different steps for the whole product cycle. And the first one is, identifying the problem and then coming up with the initial ideas about solving that problem, right? So just making an example, right? So example could be the app called DoorDash, right? So DoorDash is a food delivery app. So the founder of DoorDash could be, one day just going to a restaurant and then he sees that restaurants are hiring people to deliver their food, right? So problem is, right, like it's not very efficient because that person go out and then they have to wait for him to come back and deliver the next batch. And also like restaurants are paying for this guy full time if they're an employee to deliver food, right? So it's not very efficient for the restaurant to be doing stuff like that. And also like when the restaurant is not online as well, right, they could be potentially losing a lot of money for not being online, right? So idea could be getting this kind of restaurant online, helping them to find people so that like people can come into their restaurant and pick up food and go out, right? We could be hiring a bunch of people just going to different restaurants and pick up food, right? So that could be the idea to that initial kind of problem, right? So first is the idea, and the second step is coming up with some kind of research, right? You want to validate that idea. So the second step is basically user research, and then trying to validate the initial ideas, right? Talking to the restaurant and understanding, do they feel the same way? And once if they feel the same way, right, then the next step is to come up with the solutions for that kind of problem, right? So solution could be, because you feel the same way right now, we're gonna design an app to solve this problem. We're gonna make your restaurant online, so everybody online can see your restaurants and they can order food. And then when they order food, we're gonna have people to come up and pick up your food, right? So like the whole thing is making it a lot more efficient for you, so you can focus on what you do best, which is cooking food, right? So that could be it, right? So the solutions for that problem to solve that pain points, right? And the next one is, right now we have the solutions right now, right? Sounds very good, right? People coming, picking up, but how does the app or whatever actually look like, right? It doesn't have to be an app, right? It doesn't have to be a digital product. It could be a physical product, right? Whatever you're trying to solve it is the same flow. So for example, for DoorDash, right, it's definitely an app. So in the app, how do we actually put all of this solution in an app, right? So we will probably need a sign-up flow for both the delivery guy or for the restaurants, and also for the people that are ordering food, right? So we need 3 type of sign-in flow, and then we probably need a map view for people to deliver the app, or map view to check out where the restaurant is at, and then maybe we need a marketplace for restaurants to put their foods online so people can order, right? And the order flow and all this kind of thing, right? So all this stuff, the solution for that problem. And then eventually, when we have the product done, right, we have the product prototype, whatever, then we go in and deliver it and launch it and improve it. And that is the last 2 steps, right? So that is basically the product cycle, right? So now, if you are a UX designer, right, what is your role, right? How do you fit into this entire product cycle? What is your play in this whole game, right? So that is it. The first type is the UX researcher, right? Like I mentioned, the second step right? You have to go in and talk to the restaurant owners, right? So I think the first type of UX designer is the designer that trying to understand the problem in a deeper level, right? So UX researcher. So if you go on Google, just do a quick search where you can find a bunch of jobs about UX researcher. So these kind of people will be creating user personas, right? So for example, DoorDash, a UX researcher will potentially go to restaurant and ask them questions about, like what is your revenue about your restaurants, right? Like how many people are sitting into your restaurant to eat, or how many people are ordering, and do they order online or do they order just calling to order, and what is the revenue that you're making from people eating in or taking out, and all this kind of like number stuff, and just trying to understand, do we cover every single aspect about that problem, right? Is there anything that we're missing? And the main job of a UX researcher as well, right, is to finding out the pain points, right? The more painful, the better, right? Because people actually need to solve this, right? So if they can find out that restaurants are actually losing millions of dollars for not having an online presence and for not delivering their food efficiently, right? So that is the pain point that they would spend a lot of money to solve, right? So this kind of UX researcher is to finding out the pain point, especially during COVID too, right? Think about like restaurants are not opening, so if they're missing out the online part, they could be going bankrupt, right? So the solution to solve their problem, right? So that is the job of a UX researcher, coming with the pain point and all of this data. And then second type of UX designer is I'm lacking a broad term for it, but I would call it kind of like a broad picture UX designer, right? So these kind of people could also be like the UX manager, it could be the product manager, whatever, right? So these kind of designer, right, we're coming up with a solution to those pain points, right? So right now we have this pain point, we have this data. What kind of solution are we going to produce to solve this kind of pain points, right? It could be coming up with the features for these pain points, and like I mentioned, right? So in our case, right, we're designing an app right now, then there could be like 3 different streams and all this, right? We have a map view, we have whatever, like I mentioned just before, right? So these are the solutions that we're coming up with to solve this problem. And usually this type of designer will be writing the entire user spec as well, right? User requirements or UX flow or whatever, right? To like coming up with the idea to solve it. And if you want to check out this type of designer more, recently I find a designer on YouTube. It's called Designer Lily, and I mean, like I think her channel is pretty good. Like if you want to learn more about kind of user like broad picture UX design, will be whiteboarding a lot of different ideas, right? And this is usually what happens during a user interviews as well, right? Your company may throw a couple of ping pong to you and see how are you going to solve it with your ideas, right? So if you want to check this out, I'm going to have some links to her channel below. You can check out some of those user kind of design interview. And so this is the second type, right? Writing out all the spec documents and stuff. And then the third type is the type that I work on the most, right? So that is the type of UX designer that is handling the product design part, right? So my day every day right now is to taking the solutions, right? So they come up with 3 different user journey right now, 3 different user flow, right? And then they have the map feature, they have the checkout flow, onboarding, and all this stuff, right? How do I put all of these flow into a functional products, right? So that is my job, right? So what does the flow look like on the screen when you click on this button, where it's going to take you, right? So my job will be coming up with the product mapping. This part could also be done by the second type as well, right? And then how does the whole thing link together, right? The prototyping, what does it look like, the button and all of these connections flow screens, right? So that is my job, to come up with that kind of prototyping, the clicking prototype flow and all this kind of thing, right? And also user testing as well, going back to the restaurant owners and ask them about, do you understand my design, right? Does it really helping you to solve that problem that you're having, right? By this kind of solution design that I come up with, right? So user testing is a pretty important step as well. And that is basically the third type of UX designer, right? Coming up with a prototype that can actually go and test it. And usually product designer like that, product UX designer is also a UI designer as well, because I believe that you can't just be coming up with UX for products without UI skill as well. So the last step would be, just polishing it, right? Just making sure that your whole UX is very polished, that people look at it, they understand what is going on, they feel clean, professional, and the whole flow in that, right? So this is all the 3 types of kind of product design. product UX design. And just to recap, right, the first type of UX designer is the UX researcher, finding out the pain point. The second type is the broad level, broad picture UX designer, coming up with a solution for those pain points. And then the last type is making those solutions to life, right? Just putting all those solution idea into a functional products, right? So these are three types of UX designer. I don't know which type do you want to do more, but like for me, I like to focus on one area more, but some other people may want to focus on the researching part, right? So really up to you. But if you do find this video helpful, definitely give this video a thumbs up. And then also, if you want to check out my other video about UI and UX design as well, subscribe to my channel and follow me on all the social media links down below. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.